Captain Taemin checked his cargo hold one more time. The rare crystals were still there, glowing softly in their containers. He was smuggling them through the edge of the Viridian Nebula, a place where smart captains never went. But smart captains also never made enough money to retire early. The nebula had been forbidden for almost 900 years. Ships that went in either never came back or returned with crews gone mad. The survivors always talked about walking nightmares and humans who died but would not stay dead. Taemin did not believe in ghost stories, but he respected the fact that ships disappeared here. His ship, the Steady Prophet, was old but reliable. The sensors worked well enough to keep him safe at the nebula's edge. He had made this run 12 times before without problems. Today felt different, though he could not say why. The sensor alarm made him jump. Something was moving in the nebula, something big. Taemin looked at his screen and felt his blood turn cold. A ship was coming toward him, broadcasting on frequencies that had been dead for centuries. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was smooth and white, with curves that seemed to flow like water. No sharp edges, no visible weapons, no markings from any known species. It moved through space like it belonged there, like space was happy to have it. Then came the message that made Taemin question his sanity. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Hae Jin of the human exploration ship New Seoul. We are requesting navigation, assistance to the nearest diplomatic station. Please respond. Taemin stared at his communication panel. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew this. The entire species had died out 800 years ago in the Great Plague Wars. There were ruins on dead worlds and stories told to frighten children, but no living humans. Yet here was a ship claiming to be human, with a crew that sounded very much alive. This is Captain Taemin of the cargo vessel Steady Prophet, he replied carefully. Could you repeat your species identification? We are human, came the calm response. From Earth originally, though we have been exploring for some time now. Are you familiar with current diplomatic protocols? We seem to be having trouble with our star charts. Taemin felt dizzy. Either this was an elaborate joke, or he was talking to ghosts, or the impossible had just become possible. None of these options made him feel better. Your star charts? He asked. Yes, they appear to be quite old. Our navigation officer says the stellar positions are off by several centuries. We may have been traveling longer than we thought. The human ship moved closer, and Taemin got a better look at it. The hull seemed to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot stone. Sometimes it looked solid, sometimes it looked like it was made of light. His sensors could not decide what it was made of. Commander Hae Jin, Taemin said slowly, where have you been for the past 800 years? There was a pause. 800 years? That seems unlikely. We left Earth about 50 years ago to explore the region beyond the galactic rim. Has there been some sort of time distortion? Taemin looked at his screens again. The human ship was definitely there, but his sensors kept giving him impossible readings. Sometimes they said it was made of metal, sometimes energy, sometimes nothing at all. The ship seemed to exist and not exist at the same time. Commander, I need to ask you something important. Do you know about the Great Plague Wars? Another pause, longer this time. I am not familiar with that term. Has something happened to Earth? The way she said it made Taemin's heart hurt. There was such hope in her voice, such innocent concern. How could he tell her that her entire species was supposed to be dead? Commander, would you be willing to follow me to the nearest station? I think there are some things you need to know. Of course. We would appreciate the guidance. As the two ships began moving together toward the edge of the nebula, Taemin tried to process what was happening. The human ship moved in ways that defied physics. It turned without thrusters, accelerated without engines firing, and somehow kept pace with his ship while appearing to barely move at all. Captain Taemin, came another voice from the human ship. This is Engineer Dongwoo. I am reading some unusual stress patterns in your engine core. Would you like me to take a look? It should only take a moment. You can scan my engines from there? Scan? Oh, I am not scanning anything. I can just hear that your engine is unhappy. The harmonics are all wrong. Tae-min stared at his engine readings. Everything looked normal to him, but he was not an engineer. The harmonics? Yes, your quantum core is singing in a minor key. That usually means the containment field needs adjustment. It is a simple fix, really. Before Tae-min could respond, his engine efficiency increased by 15%. His power output smoothed out, and several small problems he had been ignoring simply fixed themselves. "How did you do that?" he whispered. "I asked your engine to feel better," Dongwu replied, as if this was the most normal thing in the galaxy. "Machines like to be healthy just like people do." Tae-min felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about humans and their impossible technology, but those were just stories, legends, things that could not be real. As they reached the edge of the nebula, Tae-min sent out a general broadcast to announce their arrival. The response was immediate and terrifying. Every sensor platform in the system started screaming warnings. Military ships that had been on routine patrol suddenly changed course and headed their way. Emergency broadcasts filled all frequencies. "Captain." "Tae-min," Commander Hyejin said. "Are we causing some sort of problem?" The local communication traffic seems quite excited. Excited was one way to put it. Panicked was more accurate. The arrival of a human ship had just turned a peaceful star system into a crisis zone. Military commanders were shouting orders, scientists were demanding data, and government officials were having emergency meetings. "Commander," Tae-min said carefully, "I think your arrival is going to change everything." Change everything? We are just explorers looking for directions home. But as Tae-min watched the chaos spreading across the system, he knew that nothing would ever be the same. The humans had returned, and the galaxy was not ready for them. The human ship continued moving peacefully through space, its crew apparently unaware that their very existence was turning the known universe upside down. The emergency session hall at Nexus Prime had never seen anything like this. Representatives from 300 species packed the vast chamber, their voices creating a storm of sound. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Counselor Bora called for order, but nobody was listening. The Cathans were demanding immediate military action. The Vortari were insisting this was all a hoax. The ancient Zephyrians were muttering prayers to their ancestors. Everyone was talking, nobody was thinking, and panic was spreading faster than a plague. "Order!" Bora shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "We will discuss this like civilized beings, not frightened children." The chamber slowly quieted. On the main screen, sensor data from the human ship scrolled past in streams of impossible numbers. The ship was there, definitely there, but it should not exist. Admiral Wu Jin stood at the military briefing podium, his face grim. The object, identifying itself as a human vessel, is currently in orbit around Nexus Prime. It has made no hostile moves, but its very presence is causing system-wide sensor failures. "Sensor failures?" asked Representative Dal Su of the Engineering Guild. "The ship appears to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously," Wu Jin explained. "Our instruments cannot determine its mass, composition, or power source. It seems to be partly in our reality and partly somewhere else." Dr. Kyung-soo, the galaxy's leading expert on extinct species, raised his hand. "Admiral, are we certain this is actually a human vessel?" "They claim to be human. They speak in human languages. Their ship design matches theoretical reconstructions of human technology from the archaeological records." "But humans are extinct," Kyung-soo insisted. "The Great Plague Wars killed them all 800 years ago. We have their burial worlds, their ruined cities, their final transmissions." "Then explain the ship," Wu Jin replied coldly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. On the screen, the human ship continued its peaceful orbit, looking like a white flower floating in the darkness of space. Counselor Bora had been alive for 300 years. She remembered the stories her grandmother told about the humans and their terrible wars. She remembered the relief when the galaxy learned they were gone, and the guilt that came after the relief. "Has anyone actually spoken with these humans?" she asked. "Captain Taemin escorted them here," Wu Jin said. "He reports normal conversation with their crew. They seem unaware that their species is supposed to be extinct." "Unaware?" Bora frowned. "How can they be unaware? According to Taemin, they believe they have been exploring for only 50 years. They asked about Earth as if it still existed." A shiver ran through the assembled representatives. Earth was a dead world now, its surface scarred by the wars. That ended human civilization. Nothing lived there except ghosts and memories. Representative Min Jung of the Healers Coalition stood up. "Counselor Bora, one of their crew members fixed a quantum engine just by talking to it. Captain Taemin's ship is now running at 130% efficiency." "That's impossible," said Chief Engineer Yong Ho. "Quantum engines require precise calibration tools and—" "The human engineer said the machine was singing in the wrong key," Min Jung continued. "He asked it to feel better, and it did." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Even the oldest species in the galaxy could not make machines work by asking them nicely. Technology required knowledge, skill, and proper tools. It did not respond to requests. Dr. Kyung-soo was frantically searching through his data tablets. "I need to access the restricted archives. There are gaps in our records about human extinction, large gaps." "What kind of gaps?" Bora asked. "The final year of the Plague Wars. Most of the records from that period are classified above my clearance level. I always assumed they were too disturbing to release, but now—" Admiral Wu Jin received a priority message on his communicator. His face went pale as he read it. "What is it?" Bora demanded. "The militant coalition has launched an attack on the human ship." The chamber fell silent. On the main screen, they watched as 5 heavily armed battleships approached the white vessel. The humans had been sent warnings, but they had not responded. They seemed unaware that death was racing toward them. "Can we stop this?" Bora asked. "Too late," Wu Jin replied grimly. The coalition ships opened fire with everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, gravity bombs, and dimensional disruptors. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The weapons streaked toward the human ship in a beautiful, deadly light show. The entire chamber held its breath. The weapons passed right through the human ship as if it was not there. The energy beams, the missiles, the exotic warheads, all of them sailed harmlessly through the space where the ship floated. The human vessel did not even flicker. "Impossible," whispered someone. A communication came from the human ship. Commander Hyojin's voice was calm and pleasant, as if nothing had happened. "Nexus Prime Control, this is the new Soul. We noticed some unusual energy patterns in our vicinity. Is there a solar storm warning we should know about? Our shields detected some minor radiation fluctuations." The assembled representatives stared at the screen. The humans had not even noticed they were being attacked. The most powerful weapons in the coalition arsenal had been less than a solar storm to them. Admiral Wu Jin looked like he had seen a ghost. "They thought it was background radiation." Dr. Kyung-soo stood up suddenly. "I need access to the deepest archives. Now, there is something we are not being told about human extinction." "What do you suspect?" Bora asked. "I suspect humans did not go extinct at all," Kyung-soo said quietly. "I suspect they evolved beyond our ability to understand them." The chamber fell silent again. Outside, the human ship continued its peaceful orbit, completely unaware that it had just survived an attack that should have vaporized it. Its crew was probably having lunch or updating their star charts, while 300 species tried to figure out if they were dealing with ghosts, gods, or something worse. Counselor Bora looked at the beautiful, impossible ship on her screen and felt very old. The galaxy had spent 800 years learning to live without humans. Now they were back, and everything was about to change. "Emergency session adjourned," she announced. "All representatives return to your homeworlds. Prepare your people for whatever this is." As the chamber emptied, Bora stayed behind, staring at the human ship. It looked so peaceful, so innocent, like a sleeping dragon that did not know its own power. She had a terrible feeling they were all about to find out just how powerful dragons could be. Research stations across the galaxy worked day and night trying to understand what the humans were. Scientists who had not slept in weeks stared at data that made no sense. The humans had agreed to cultural exchange programs, thinking they were just being friendly neighbors. They had no idea they were causing nervous breakdowns among the galaxy's greatest minds. On Nexus Prime, engineer Ji Huan from the human ship was helping repair a broken quantum drive. The alien engineers watched him work with the same expression. People wore when watching magic tricks. "The problem is simple," Ji Huan explained to Chief Engineer Yong Ho. "Your quantum matrix is lonely. It needs to remember how to sing with the rest of the ship." Yong Ho had been working with quantum drives for 40 years. He understood every circuit, every field generator, every probability calculator. But he had never heard anyone describe a machine as lonely. "Machines do not have feelings," Yong Ho said carefully. "Of course they do," Ji Huan replied, running his hand along the drive casing. "Everything has feelings. Rocks feel heavy, water feels fluid, fire feels eager. Machines feel purposeful when they work well and frustrated when they do not." Ji Huan closed his eyes and placed both hands on the quantum core. The alien engineers held their breath. The core had been dead for 3 days, and they had tried everything to fix it. "Hello, old friend," Ji Huan whispered to the machine. "What is bothering you?" The quantum drive hummed softly. The engineer's instruments showed no change, but somehow the sound was different, warmer, more alive. "Ah, I see," Ji Huan nodded. "You miss your sister ship, the one that was scrapped last month. You two worked together for so long." Yong Ho felt a chill. The drive he was trying to fix had indeed come from a sister ship. They had been built together, operated together for decades. When the sister ship was scrapped, this drive had started having problems. But how could Ji Huan know that? How could a machine miss anything? "It is okay to be sad," Ji Huan told the quantum core. "But your new friends need you to work. Can you be strong for them?" The quantum drive came to life with a smooth, happy hum. All systems showed green. The efficiency. Readings were better than when the drive was new. "How?" Yong Ho whispered. "I asked it nicely," Ji Huan said, as if this explained everything. Across the station, Navigator Subin was giving a demonstration of human navigation techniques. The alien navigators had expected to see advanced computers and exotic sensors. Instead, Subin stood in the navigation center with her eyes closed, turning slowly in a circle. "I can feel home," she explained to Navigator Dalwan. "Earth is that way, about 26,000 light years. The galactic center is there. The big spiral arms curved like this." She gestured with her hands, tracing patterns only she could see. "But we are inside the station," Dalwan protested. "There are no sensors here, no star charts, no navigation equipment." "I do not need equipment," Subin smiled. "Space has a shape. Time has a flow. If you know how to feel them, you can find your way anywhere." She opened her eyes and pointed to a wall. "There is a ship coming from that direction. It will arrive in about 3 hours. The crew is nervous about something." Dalwan checked his sensors. Empty space in that direction. No scheduled arrivals for days. But 3 hours later, an emergency medical transport arrived from exactly where Subin had pointed. The crew was nervous about a patient with an unknown disease. In the medical bay, Dr. Hei Wan was treating patients with what she called basic first aid. The alien doctors watched in amazement as she cured diseases that had puzzled them for centuries. This is simple cellular exhaustion, she explained to Dr. Sungmin while examining a patient with blue-scale fever. The cells have forgotten how to rest properly. They need to be reminded. Hae-won placed her hands on the patient's forehead. Her touch was warm and gentle. Within minutes, the patient's fever broke. The scales returned to their normal color. The pain vanished. Blue scale. Fever has no cure, Sungmin said weakly. We have been trying to cure it for 300 years. You have been trying to fight the fever, Hae-won replied. I simply asked the body to remember how to be healthy. Fighting creates resistance. Kindness creates healing. The patient sat up, completely cured, asking for something to eat. Dr. Sungmin sat down heavily. This is impossible. Medicine does not work by being kind to diseases. Why not? Hae-won asked. Kindness works for everything else. Scientists studying the humans were having similar experiences. The humans answered every question honestly, but their answers made no sense. When asked about their technology, they spoke of machines with feelings. When asked about their navigation, they talked about listening to space. When asked about their medicine, they explained that healing was just a matter of asking nicely. Dr. Kyung-soo had finally gained access to the restricted archives. What he found there made him question everything he thought he knew about history. The records of humanity's final year were not disturbing. They were impossible. According to the classified files, humans had not died in the plague wars. They had simply left. The final transmissions from Earth were not cries for help or messages of despair. They were farewell notes. We have learned to walk between the spaces, read one message. We will watch over our younger siblings until they are ready to follow. Another transmission was even stranger. Death is just another country to explore. We will send postcards. The final message from Earth was the most puzzling of all. The door is always open. When you are ready to step through, we will be waiting. On the other side, Kyung-soo stared at the files for hours. If these records were true, humans had not gone extinct. They had evolved beyond physical existence. They had become something that could move between dimensions, exist in multiple realities, treat impossible things as everyday miracles. Meanwhile, back on Nexus Prime, the human crew continued their friendly cultural exchange. They had no idea that every casual demonstration of their abilities was rewriting the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. When asked about their journey through space, Commander Hyejin mentioned they had been exploring the spaces between spaces for the past few decades. She said it like someone might mention taking a walk in the park. The spaces between spaces? Asked Dr. Minho, an alien physicist. Yes, the areas where dimensions fold together, Hyejin explained. It is very beautiful there. Lots of interesting colors that do not exist in normal space. We have found some wonderful things. Dr. Minho's hands shook as he wrote notes. The humans were casually describing travel through theoretical dimensions that alien science could barely imagine, let alone access. The truth was becoming clear to those brave enough to see it. Humans had not returned from extinction. They had returned from transcendence. They were beings who existed beyond the normal rules of reality, but they still thought of themselves as simple explorers looking for directions home. The galaxy was not ready for this. The galaxy might never be ready for this, but the humans were here, kind and helpful and completely unaware that their very existence was turning the universe upside down. In the depths of space, more sensor stations were picking up strange readings. Other ships were appearing at the edges of known space. The new soul was not alone. Humanity had come home. The ancient world of Kethmar held secrets older than most civilizations. Deep beneath its surface, in archives that had not been opened for centuries, Dr. Kyung-soo searched for answers that he was no longer sure he wanted to find. Archivist. Yujin was 900 years old and had been keeper of the forbidden record since before the human extinction. Her scaled hands moved carefully over documents that were older than the current galactic government. "You are asking dangerous questions," Yujin warned as she led Kyung-soo deeper into the archives. "Some knowledge is buried for good reasons. I need to know what really happened to humanity," Kyung-soo replied. "The official records do not match what we are seeing now." The archive chamber they entered was vast and cold. Glowing crystals held information in formats so old that only a few beings in the galaxy could still read them. Yujin touched one. Crystal and images appeared in the air above them. The images showed Earth during the final days of the Plague Wars. But these were not the scenes of death and destruction that the public records described. These images showed something impossible. Humans were not dying. They were changing. "The plague was not a disease," Yujin said quietly. "It was a transformation. Humanity was evolving beyond physical existence." Kyung-soo watched in amazement. As the images showed humans becoming translucent, then transparent, then something that was not quite there at all, they were not falling ill. They were ascending to a higher form of existence. "Why was this hidden?" he asked. "Because the galaxy was terrified," Yujin replied. "A species that could evolve beyond death, that could exist in multiple dimensions. The other species demanded that all records be classified. They wanted to pretend humanity had simply died." More crystals revealed more truth. The Plague Wars had not been wars at all. They had been humanity's graduation ceremony, their transformation from a physical species to something beyond the normal rules of reality. The battles were actually celebrations, joyful gatherings as humans learned to exist in spaces between dimensions. "The Viridian Nebula," Kyung-soo whispered. "That is where they went." "Yes," Yujin nodded. "It is not forbidden because it is dangerous. It is forbidden because it is where humanity transcended. It is a doorway between our reality and theirs." The final crystal showed Earth's last transmission, but not the version that had been released to the public. This one was complete, unedited, devastating in its implications. The image showed a human woman standing in what looked like a garden, but the plants were made of light, and the sky showed stars from multiple galaxies simultaneously. She was beautiful, in a way that hurt to look at, as if she existed in more dimensions than the recording could capture. "This is Scholar Hyejin," the woman said. "We are recording this message for our younger siblings who are not yet ready to follow us. We have learned to walk between the spaces where thoughts become real and time flows in circles." Kyung-soo felt his breath catch. Scholar Hyejin, Commander Hyejin of the New Soul. They were the same person, separated by 800 years. That apparently meant nothing to beings who existed outside normal time. "We know you will be frightened," the message continued. "Change is always frightening, but we have not abandoned you. We will watch from the spaces between spaces. When your species are ready to evolve beyond matter and energy, we will be here to guide you." The recording showed more humans in the background, some still recognizably human, others becoming something beautiful and strange. They looked happy, peaceful, like people who had solved a puzzle that had been troubling them for a long time. "The door will always be open," Scholar Hyejin said, "but you must choose to walk through it yourselves. Evolution cannot be forced, only invited. We will wait." The recording ended. Yujin and Kyung-soo stood in silence, trying to process what they had seen. "How many people know this?" Kyung-soo asked. "A few dozen across the entire galaxy," Yujin replied. "The council decided that the truth would cause panic and chaos. They were probably right. But now humans are back. They never really left," Yujin corrected. "They have been here all along, watching, waiting. The New Soul is just the first ship to make contact in 800 years. Kyung-soo thought about engineer Ji Hwan talking to machines, navigator Subin feeling her way through space, Dr. Hae-won healing with kindness. They were not using advanced technology, they were using abilities that came from existing partially, outside normal reality. What do they want? He asked. The same thing they have always wanted, Yoo-jin said. To explore, to learn, to help their friends. They are still human in all the ways that matter. They have just become much more than human as well. A new crystal activated, showing recent events. The attack on the new soul, the cultural exchanges, the growing panic across the galaxy. Yoo-jin watched with the patience of someone who had seen many civilizations rise and fall. This will not end well, she observed. The galaxy is not ready to accept what humanity has become. Then what should we do? Tell the truth, Yoo-jin said simply. Some will reject it. Some will try to worship the humans as gods. Some will demand the secret of transcendence. But the truth is always better than lies, even when it is difficult. As they prepared to leave the archives, Kyung-soo noticed something strange. The crystals were humming softly, as if they were pleased to finally share their secrets. The ancient building itself seemed lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from it. Even the archives are happy, Yoo-jin smiled. Secrets are heavy. Things. They are glad to be free. Back on the surface, Kyung-soo composed his report with shaking hands. He was about to tell the galaxy that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Humans had not died. They had evolved into beings that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, capable of feats that seemed like magic, but were simply the natural abilities of a post-physical species. The humans walking among them now were explorers from a higher reality, checking on younger species with the same casual care that gardeners might show for growing plants. They could heal the unhealable, navigate impossible spaces, and speak with machines because they existed in the places where such things were natural and normal. As he finished his report, Kyung-soo wondered if humanity would be disappointed in their younger siblings. The galaxy had spent 800 years learning to live without them, becoming smaller and more fearful in their absence. Now the children had to face their transcended parents and explain why they had chosen fear over wonder. Somewhere in orbit, above Nexus Prime, Commander Hyojin was probably having tea and wondering why everyone seemed so nervous around her crew. She had no idea that she was the living proof of humanity's greatest achievement. The evolution beyond death itself. The truth was about to set the galaxy free, whether it wanted to be free or not. Dr. Kyung-soo's report spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of its release, every government, every military, every religious organization was holding emergency meetings. The truth about humanity's transcendence had finally been revealed, and the galaxy did not know how to handle it. On Nexus Prime, the emergency session had grown into something resembling a riot. Representatives were shouting at each other in dozens of languages, while Commander Hyojin and her crew sat peacefully at a side table, looking confused by all the excitement. "They are gods," screamed Representative Kwan Ho of the Devotion Worlds. "We must worship them, build temples, offer sacrifices." "They are abominations," roared General Tae-won of the Militant Coalition. "They break the natural order. They must be destroyed." "They are teachers," argued Scholar Dalrim of the Learning Collective. "We must beg them to share the secret of transcendence." Counselor Bora watched the chaos with growing despair. 300 species, thousands of years of civilization, and they were acting like frightened animals confronted with something they could not understand. Ambassador In-soo, one of the humans who had recently arrived to help with diplomatic relations, stood up calmly. The chamber gradually quieted as beings noticed the slim figure in simple white robes. "May I speak?" In-soo asked politely. The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, and recording device focused on the human ambassador. "Thank you," Insu said with a gentle smile. "I understand you are all very upset about learning who we really are. But I think there might be some misunderstandings we should clear up." "Misunderstandings?" General Taewan demanded. "You exist in multiple dimensions. You can heal the incurable. You speak with machines. You are beyond death itself." "Yes, those things are true," Insu agreed. "But I think you are missing the most important point, which is, we are still just people." The chamber erupted in disbelieving laughter and angry shouts. Insu waited patiently for quiet to return. "We evolved beyond physical existence, yes," Insu continued. "We learned to exist in spaces between realities. We gained abilities that seem impossible to you. But we are still the same humans who used to live on Earth. We still like good food and interesting stories. We still worry about our friends and family. We still make mistakes and learn from them." Captain Eunjung, another human who had arrived with relief supplies for several struggling colonies, joined Insu at the speaker's podium. "We are happy to share our improvements to your technology and medicine," Eunjung said. "We have learned some useful things during our travels, but we cannot give you the secret of dimensional transcendence." "Why not?" demanded Scholar Dalrim. "Because there is no secret," Eunjung replied. "Transcendence cannot be taught or given. Each species must discover it for themselves when they are ready." "When we are ready?" General Taewan laughed bitterly. "How can we ever be ready for the impossible?" "The same way we were," Insu said gently. "By choosing love over fear, curiosity over suspicion, growth over safety. By being willing to become more than what you are." The chamber fell silent again, but this was a different kind of silence. Thoughtful, rather than angry. "You mean we could evolve like you did?" asked Representative Su Young of the Science Confederation. "Every species has that potential," Captain Yoon-jung confirmed. "But it cannot be forced. It must be chosen freely, with full understanding of what it means." "What does it mean?" Counselor Bora asked quietly. Insu considered the question carefully. "It means letting go of everything you think you need to survive. Your physical bodies, your material possessions, your fear of death. It means trusting that existence itself wants you to grow and explore and become more than you can currently imagine." The chamber was so quiet that the hum of the air recyclers seemed loud. "It means accepting that the universe is much stranger and more wonderful than you thought," Eunjung added, "and choosing to be part of that strangeness instead of fighting against it." General Taiwan stood up slowly. "And if we are not ready? If we choose to remain as we are?" "Then you remain as you are," Insu said simply. "We will still be your friends. We will still help when you ask for help. Your choice does not change how we feel about you." "Even if we try to destroy you?" the general asked. "Even then," Yoon-jung replied sadly. "Though we hope you will not make that choice." The general's face hardened. "Some of us have already made that choice." Warning alarms suddenly filled the chamber. On the main screen, a massive fleet appeared at the edge of the system. Ships from dozens of militant species, armed with every weapon known to galactic science. They had come to destroy the humans, once and for all. "Fleet Commander to Nexus Prime," came a harsh voice over the communication system. "Surrender the dimensional abominations immediately, or we will cleanse this system of their presence." Ambassador Insu sighed sadly. "We had hoped it would not come to this." The militant fleet opened fire with everything they had. Weapons that could crack planets, devices that could tear holes in space-time itself, experimental technologies that existed only in theoretical papers. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize an entire star system. The weapons struck the human ships and passed through them harmlessly, just as before. But this time, the humans did not pretend not to notice. The new soul and her sister ships simply faded from normal space-time. One moment they were there, solid and real. The next moment they were gone, existing somewhere beyond the reach of physical weapons. Commander Hee-jin's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking directly into the minds of everyone in the system. "We are disappointed in you," she said, and her sadness was like a weight pressing down on every heart. "We had hoped our younger siblings had learned to choose wisdom over fear. Perhaps we were wrong to return so soon." "Wait," Counselor Bora called out. "Not all of us chose this. Some of us want to learn." There was a pause that seemed to last forever. "We know," Commander Hye-jin replied, and her voice was gentler now. "For those who wish to grow, guidance will be available, but we will not force our presence on those who fear us." The human ships flickered back into visibility for just a moment, long enough for everyone to see them one last time. They looked sad, but not angry, disappointed, but not vengeful. "The door remains open," Ambassador Insu said as the ships began to fade again. "When you are ready to step through it, we will be waiting on the other side." The human ships vanished, completely, leaving behind only empty space and the echo of infinite sadness. The militant fleet fired a few more volleys at empty space, then slowly dispersed. Their victory felt hollow and meaningless. In the council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned silence. They had driven away beings who could have transformed their civilization, who could have taught them wonders beyond imagination. Some felt relief. Others felt regret. But everyone felt the weight of the choice they had made. The galaxy had chosen fear over wonder, and the humans had respected that choice. But somewhere in the spaces between spaces, patient voices whispered that it was never too late to choose again. 6 months had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what it had lost. Captain Taemin sat in his upgraded ship, staring at engine readings that still made no sense. Ever since Engineer Dongwu had asked his engine to feel better, the steady prophet had been running like a dream. The quantum core hummed with contentment, the navigation system seemed to anticipate his needs, and sometimes he swore the ship was trying to take care of him. He had become something of a celebrity, the smuggler who first met the returning humans. Government officials wanted to interview him, scientists wanted to study his ship, and religious groups wanted him to lead their services. He just wanted to understand what had happened to his life. The communication panel chimed with an incoming message. Taemin expected another interview request, but the voice that came through was familiar and impossible. "Hello, Captain Taemin. This is Commander Hye-jin. How are you doing?" Taemin nearly fell out of his pilot's chair. "Commander? But you left. The ships disappeared." "We did not leave," Hye-jin replied gently. "We simply moved to a place where those who fear us cannot see us. But you were kind to us, Captain. You helped us when we were lost. Kindness should be rewarded. I just gave you directions. You gave us much more than that. You showed us that not everyone in the galaxy had chosen fear. For that, we would like to offer you something." A new set of star charts appeared on Taemin's navigation system, but these were unlike any charts he had ever seen. They showed not just where things were, but where they could be, where they had been, where they wanted to go. "These are dimensional navigation charts," Hye-jin explained. "They will show you safe routes through spaces that normal ships cannot reach, hidden passages between star systems, ways to travel that are faster and safer than anything your people have discovered." Taemin stared at the charts with wonder and terror. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because someone needs to be a bridge between our peoples," Hye-jin said. "Someone who is not afraid of impossible things. Someone who can help prepare others for the day when they are ready to choose. Growth over fear. Across the galaxy, other individuals who had shown kindness or wisdom during the human crisis were receiving similar gifts. Dr. Kyung-soo found new research materials appearing in his laboratory, documents that explained the basics of dimensional physics in terms he could almost understand. Dr. Sung-min discovered that his medical equipment had somehow learned to diagnose diseases by listening to patients' dreams. But not everyone was ready for such gifts. On the militant worlds, depression and anger ruled. General Taewon had led the largest military force in galactic history against an enemy that simply stepped sideways out of reality. His weapons, his strategies, his entire understanding of warfare had been rendered meaningless in an instant. He spent his days staring at tactical displays that showed how completely he had failed to protect his people from something that had never intended to harm them. The devotion worlds had built temples to worship humans who could not be found. Pilgrims traveled to the Viridian Nebula hoping to catch a glimpse of their transcended gods, but the nebula remained empty and silent. Their prayers echoed in empty space, unanswered because the humans they worshipped were too polite to accept. Worship they had never wanted. The Learning Collective had dedicated their entire civilization to discovering the secret of dimensional transcendence. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, trying to recreate human technology, human abilities, human evolution. But every attempt failed because they were trying to force something that could only be freely chosen. Dr. Kyung-soo had tried to explain this to them, but they would not listen. They wanted formulas and procedures, not philosophy and choice. They wanted to take transcendence by force of intellect, not receive it as a gift of growth. Meanwhile, in the spaces between realities, human exploration ships continued their patient work. They watched over the galaxy like gardeners tending, a vast field, helping where they could, waiting for the right moments to offer guidance. Captain Chang Min commanded one such ship, the Bright Tomorrow. His crew had been monitoring a young species called the Varani, who had just discovered faster-than-light travel and were taking their first nervous steps into galactic society. "They are afraid," reported navigator Hyo-jin. "Their first contact with other species did not go well. Pirates tried to raid their homeworld. Then perhaps it is time for a different kind of first contact," Chang Min decided. The Bright Tomorrow materialized near the Varani homeworld, broadcasting messages of peace and friendship. Unlike the older galactic species, the Varani had no preconceptions about humans. They had never heard the stories of extinction and transcendence. To them, the humans were simply another species offering to be friends. "Welcome to the galactic community," Chang Min told the Varani Planetary Council. "We are explorers from Earth. We have traveled far and learned much. Perhaps we can share some knowledge that will help you on your journey." The Varani were curious and eager to learn. They asked questions about technology, about medicine, about navigation. The humans answered honestly, demonstrating abilities that seemed wonderful rather than impossible. "How do you heal our people so easily?" asked Varani Medical Chief Ketek. "By listening to what their bodies need," Dr. Min-jung explained. "Every living thing wants to be healthy. We simply help them remember how." "How do your ships travel so smoothly through space?" asked Varani engineer Narok. "By working with space instead of fighting against it," Chief Engineer Won-soo replied. "Space is not empty. It is full of currents and flows. If you learn to feel them, you can ride them instead of pushing through them." The Varani learned quickly. Within weeks, their medical techniques had improved dramatically. Their ships began moving more efficiently through space. Their people seemed happier, more at peace with themselves and their place in the universe. But most importantly, they learned to see the impossible as simply another kind of possible. Back on Nexus Prime, Counselor Bora received regular reports about the Varani and their rapid advancement. She also heard rumors of other species receiving human guidance, always quietly, always respectfully, always with those who chose to see wonder instead of terror. They are still watching over us, she realized. They never really left. Captain Tay Min had become an unofficial ambassador between the humans and those galactic species brave enough to seek contact. He carried messages, delivered gifts, and helped prepare others for encounters with beings who existed beyond normal reality. The key, he told those who would listen, is to remember that they are still people. Strange people, impossible people, but people nonetheless. They want the same things we all want: friendship, understanding, the chance to explore and grow, and help others do the same. As the months passed, the galaxy slowly began to change. Some species remained locked in fear and anger, but others started to open their minds to new possibilities. Children born after the human contact grew up with stories of beings who could heal with kindness and navigate by feeling. To them, such things seemed natural rather than miraculous. The humans waited patiently in their dimensional spaces, ready to help when help was requested, ready to teach when students appeared, ready to welcome any species that chose to grow beyond its limitations. The door remained open, just as they had promised, and slowly, carefully, a few brave souls began to approach it. In the depths of space, Commander Hye-Jin stood on the bridge of the new Sol and smiled. Her crew was preparing for another contact mission, this time with a species that had specifically requested guidance. The galaxy was learning, slowly but surely, that evolution was a choice rather than an accident. "Where to next, Commander?" asked Navigator Subin. "Wherever we are needed," Hye-Jin replied. "The universe is vast, and there are always more friends to make." The new soul slipped quietly between dimensions, carrying hope and wonder to those ready to receive them. Behind them, the galaxy continued its patient journey toward transcendence, one choice at a time,